The Detroit River is the busiest international crossing in North America. 5 million people live in the Detroit River watershed, where they have worked and recreated for many generations. The river is situated in the most biologically diverse region in Canada. It's the only river designated as both an American and Canadian heritage river. Its importance is woven through the fabric of our community. When the Windsor-Detroit area underwent rapid industrialization at the turn of the 20th century, the Detroit River became notoriously polluted. The 1970s and 1980s saw the development of a massive conservation effort aimed at cleaning up the Detroit River. In 1987, the Detroit River was identified as one of 43 areas of concern, or extensively degraded areas of the Great Lakes, under the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. Since 1987, for nearly 35 years, the Detroit River Canadian Cleanup, or DRCC, has been working with partners to implement hundreds of projects to address the impairment of the river's beneficial uses and return the river to health.
Under all areas of concerns, one of the beneficial uses that we have to assess is the degree of fish tumors and wildlife deformities that are happening. There's a variety of potential causes of fish tumors, but we kind of consider them as cancer rates in a population, just like human cancer rates. So having a low tumor prevalence relative to a background tumor rate in reference sites tells us something about the health of the system. There could be a few different causes. Some are natural, like viruses that will generate fish tumors, and others are related to chemical contaminants, particularly in the sediments. This is basically an indicator of health. We often find that those types of fish species that live amongst the sediments, very close to the sediments, feed on those benthic invertebrates, they're the ones that are more susceptible to exposure to sediment-based contaminants and are more likely to have fish tumors associated with them. So we tend to use the brown bullhead, which is a small catfish, and this small catfish is known to be particularly sensitive to certain contaminant classes, particularly PAH, so polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. PAHs are released in industrial activities, particularly related to the combustion of fuels and release of oils, for example. Brown bullheads tend to be more sensitive than other benthic species of fish, so we use them as a sort of a canary in the gold mine, if it were. Environment Canada and DFO, coupled with the Ministry of Natural Resources, had completed a bunch of surveys, and they had 3 stations where they were collecting brown bullheads. Based on the most recent fish surveys and tumor frequencies, particularly in livers of brown bullhead, we're able to now say that this BUI is unimpaired for the Detroit River, at least in the Canadian waters.
Tremendous progress has been made in restoring the Detroit River thanks to significant investment from federal and provincial governments and collaborative efforts between municipalities and agencies, Indigenous communities, environmental organizations, industry, and interested citizens like you. Species such as lake sturgeon and bald eagles have returned and water quality has improved. Just 4 beneficial uses remain to be reclassified to not impaired on the Canadian side of the river, and then the Detroit River will no longer be listed as an area of concern. The Detroit River Canadian Cleanup looks forward to continuing to work with you to implement more stewardship projects to keep the river healthy and productive.